the plastic concrete buckets, and I just tip them up on end, pour out 3/4 of it, and then the sprinklers will fill it up with time. Yeah. I don't think there's any problem with being that stagnant, but I'm not sure. I always flush it out.
Ours stays stagnant.
Yeah, and I don't think, I kind of questioned at the time if the heat from the sun being in a black tub, if that creates any problems. I don't think so. I've never noticed any real problems that way. One thing about them is you gotta make sure they're strong and healthy before you work on them. They are a little bit on the sensitive side, and if they're not strong and healthy and you start working on them, it's probably gonna suffer if not die. So there's been some trees that I've collected that it's taken me 4 years just to let it recover before I decide to work on it. Yeah, you gotta get a good, healthy root system. Seems like when they do have a healthy root system, they're not that hard to work on. Yes, sir?
You had talked about maybe one cut after a certain time, you have a second cut, blah, blah, blah. How do you decide at what angle you're doing that cut? Is it always to the back, is it to the side?
Yeah, let me go over some of that too. That's a good thing. Now, when Guy Guidry talked about it, he said, leave, if something pops out here, he said, leave some of this as dead wood, so the scar will scar here. So from here up, this is all dead wood. And what that does is hold back the scarring from healing over. One of the cool things about this, the scars will heal over completely. Yeah, one of the few trees that it will completely hold that back. So what this does is it holds that back from getting too fat here as this grows out. I've never quite used that technique. What I have done though, and done wrongly and rightly, is the angle that you make your cut. If it's too sharp like that, it's not going to be good. You need it a little flatter there. Understand? And that way, as that grows up, you're going to have a better transition from this level to this level growing here.
So at the end, if the angle goes towards the side or towards the back, it's decided on what's growing there already?
It could go either toward the back or to the side.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to put it in the front because a hole in the middle up high doesn't look right. Down low, you can incorporate that into your design style, but halfway up, right in the middle, it's like somebody's showing you your belly button.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's not an attractive thing. So typically on the side, no, yours isn't there either. Typically on the side or toward the back.
Okay.
Although I guess with time it will scar over. I've just always kept mine hidden as best you can. And when you first collect it, all right, so this tree moves that way a little bit, you think? Is that kind of what it looks like? All right, let's see it does. All right, so you're going to get a bunch of these guys popping off here all over the place. If we let all of them grow, all this up here is going to get real fat. Like letting all this grow here. If you notice, see how fat this is compared to down here? So we already have reverse taper. We're going to have to do something about that to correct that. So if it's your own tree, you're probably going to pay a little bit more attention to it and not let it get too wild. So what you got to do is pick one and only one and keep it to only one, because it's going to want to keep putting out more and more and more. So now if this tree goes this way, do we want to move it back that way or move it that way? That's kind of a personal choice, whatever. So if, say we want to go that way, we would probably pick either this guy or that guy, and then we would make a cut at about that angle. let's say we're gonna keep this guy, so we're gonna take that one off now, and this one's gonna grow, 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 until it's about half the width of this. And then we're gonna cut it again. That's reverse taper, that's bad drawing. There we go.
You can fix that.
I'm afraid I'm not a drawer, and these are not made for lefties because you smear your hand right through everything, so keeping my hand up's a pain. All right, so we have another interval here. This interval is smaller than this interval. See the different intervals? One interval here of thickness, another interval of here of thickness, another interval of here of thickness. So we're gonna let another one come out here. So we probably don't want one going out that way, we probably want one going that way instead. So what's gonna happen is you're gonna get a bunch more of these coming out again. So we're gonna take those guys off, make us a little cut in this direction, and then grow this guy out. Now, at this point, we should be starting to work on some of the branching here. Not so much at the top. These guys are super strong at the top. You don't have to worry about branching in at the top, but you gotta worry about it at the bottom. It wants to die, the branches on the bottom want to die. You gotta try to save them and keep them alive by holding the energy back at the top. If it's left to go, this will take over and these guys will succumb and die, right? So there's only so much energy that you're gonna harness in a tree, in a pot. So focus that energy where it needs to be going. All right, so then we do this last one here, and then now you have a tree with 5 different levels of interval, you got movement, and hopefully during this time you've made some branches, and that's how you do one from the woods. Okay? All right, what else was I talking about?
Reggie, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Everybody seems to put these in water
Yes.
to help, especially during the heat. And so, like this tree lives in this pot here with the tray underneath it, and it grows a bunch of roots under there.
Yeah,
And so my question is, what do you do with those roots?
you got a trimmer?
Yeah,
Trim them off.
you do trim them?
Yep.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that was my question.
Yeah. Yeah, they will keep growing too otherwise.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that probably tells me it's about time to repot too, if it's growing out there that much.
yeah, okay.
And they will naturally want to grow out of the pot. That's just the nature of them. You repot them and collect them January, February here in Florida. Typically, I'm told when the leaves drop. So looking at this guy, I would say don't collect him. Looking at that guy, probably is getting ready. The leaves are brown. I have been told that some people collect them in summertime. That's never what I've been told by other people or myself. I've never been able to successful in that. Only in the deciduous time, or only in the winter
Water
time.
moccasins and alligators are pretty active in the summertime.
I have never seen a water moccasin or a alligator collecting. I've seen a rattlesnake one time. Scared the bejesus out of me.
The people who collect them and then they're in like South Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
and they go to a swamp that isn't emptied until, they empty the swamp in the summertime.
Oh, okay, one of those situations.
So that's-
Yeah, that might be specific to a certain, like those trees. But I've always been told, whenever the leaves are on them, don't collect them. I have collected right at the beginning of spring, where the leaves are starting to come out, and every one of those buds dropped off, but it came back. So, maybe. I was lucky, right,
Yeah.
right.
So that goes
Yeah.
for repotting too then, you should,
January, February.
if the leaves are still on,
That one would be fine. This one I'd probably wait a little bit longer.
Is it gonna go dormant? I mean,
Probably.
you know, January.
I would defoliate it now.
Yeah. I keep
Yeah.
all my.
Some of mine have leaves on it, some of them are red, and some have dropped. So I've got all varieties.
No,
so would you defoliate it to repot it, or would you just?
You could.
all of my cypress still have new
Because I have
growth and leaves.
2 that are, like 3 of them, And then one is like
Yeah,
totally one.
they're not
side,
active
and then-
right now.
And then the other one.
Yeah, they're not, this is not putting out new growth. It's inactive. It still has green leaves, but it's not actively growing. So now's the time to do it. And I don't really try to cut back too hard on Cypress. They just are a little sensitive sometimes, so do the least that you can to get by.
You mean when you repot?
Yeah, when you repot them, right. Yeah, it's not like a ficus where you can cut it out of a pot, put it in another one, it's fine. Treat these kind of like maybe a juniper as far as root trimming and such. But you still gotta cut them back, because they'll run out long and long and long, and you don't want them running circles around your pot. You eventually gotta cut them back. You're looking for that more ramified or branching of the roots. The soil, I'm just using potting soil right now. I don't use any bonsai soil with these guys. You cannot overwater them. They have to stay wet. So whatever you got, keep it wet. Yeah. So I just get Miracle Grow potting soil. I don't like it as much because it's got perlite in it, but it's wet, stays wet, drains. Sometimes I will actually put a piece of plastic in the bottom of my pot to keep it from draining as much, just to put more and more water in there. But if you put it in a bucket of water, who cares? Same thing. It stays wet anyhow.
So in your bonsai pots, do you use regular potting soil, you don't use bonsai?
No, it's all only potting soil. Yeah, don't use any bonsai soil with them at all anymore. Are you using any bonsai soil with them? Yeah. If you keep them wet, it really doesn't matter. But some of them I don't keep in a bucket because the pots are too big. I mean, I've got some that, the tree's this big around, so I don't have a bucket that big to put them in. But I've found that the potting soil works well.
It's less expensive.
Yes. Yes, quite a bit less expensive. Before you guys go, I'm going to give you, these are some of the articles that I've collected about Cypress over the years. One was from Mary Miller's Tropical. And then there's one here by Andrew Walsh. I think that was out of American Bonsai. And then there's another one here out of American Bonsai by Dale Kochoy. But these are what I read initially, and then I went out and did them. Okay, what else? You can go ahead and fertilize them. I like organic better than inorganic with them, but they tend to do better with some fertilization.
Now in the winter?
What's that?
Even in the winter?
No, you don't fertilize much in the winter. If it's not active, you don't need to fertilize it. If it's not actively growing, then the fertilizer is just a waste of time and money and all that kind of
You
stuff.
keep them in water in the wintertime too?
Yeah. Yeah, summer's really the most important because that's when it's going to be hottest and it's going to have a chance of drying out. One other thing I do is I usually defoliate. Well, if I want to show it later in the season, I'll defoliate it in September, and it'll put out a new flush of leaves. And for some reason, that second flush of leaves has a better chance of turning red. I don't know why. I've just noticed that over the years.
Maybe because of stress or something?
I don't know. The leaves are smaller, but it flushes out with a new set, and they look pretty. They tend to hold on longer in toward the winter time. And I thought I noticed them being a little bit more red that year, but I can't be absolutely sure on that.